Hi everyone, delonewolf here, and as you can see I'm in my Mackie now. I'm heading for a mining belt, and that means another dev blog. In the meantime, Darkwolf, who is a CEO who really doesn't like botters, has invited me for Orca bonuses, so I'll gladly take that. Let's look for a close asteroid for my drones. In the meantime, let's also take care of that Serpentis agent. F, as you can see, I'm trying to incorporate the key bindings, and those look like two pretty big asteroids, so that could be good. Let's return my guys, abandon the wreck, everyone in, and get my mining drones to start working. And there we go. I can get started. So let's head over to the EVE Online website for the dev blogs. And yeah, today I'm going to talk a little bit about my views on EVE Online and esports. What prompted this is this dev blog about the SCL, the Syndicate Competitive League, which is being launched by a group of EVE Online players. CCP is trying to support them as much as possible, but I really think it's pretty awesome. These guys are trying to will be trying to run a series of tournaments commented by tournament experts and streamed live on Twitch TV, which is pretty damn awesome. So yeah, I can only imagine the amount of work that these guys are going to have to put in this in order to make the SCL a success. It's pretty awesome that they're doing this just because they love the game so much. They'll have pretty limited resources, and I wish them the best of luck, of course, as does CCP. One thing that's I think pretty awesome is that they've gotten access from CCP to the UI interface that they used in the Alliance tournament. So that should make the stream quite a lot more interesting than if you had to view it from a normal player standpoint. Unfortunately, yeah, they still have to work out all the details and stuff, of course. So the first tournament will take place on CC. But overall, very nice to see the EVE Online community keep trying to come up with new ways to promote the game and to have fun in the game. And a competitive league run by the players. I think it's a very interesting experiment, but it does pose the question to me, what about EVE Online and esports? What are my views on that? And I think it's a pretty important discussion, because you can't just expect EVE Online to have the same kind of esports as the other current very successful esports games such as StarCraft and League of Legends. And I was trying to just think about this a little bit, and yeah, I've come up basically with what I think is a good analogy between the current big esports games and EVE Online, which is much more niche. I would say I would compare StarCraft, League of Legends to the very accessible sports like soccer or basketball. Anyone that really wants to can have some fun playing basketball or soccer or some form of these sports, and then yeah, that just out of that evolves a professional scene with a very large base of people that are interested in the sports because they actively play it. In EVE Online, it's going to be very different, in my opinion. I would compare EVE Online to Formula 1 racing or something along those lines. The reason for that, I think, any individual can basically jump into StarCraft 2 or League of Legends and really work their best and try to make their way up to become a professional player. It takes a lot of time, dedication, and some talent, sure. But on top of that, in EVE Online, you also need the backing, I think, of a really big organization, of a serious alliance and capable alliance. It doesn't have to be a huge alliance in the game, but you do need some means behind you to help you in an esports career in EVE Online, I think, and that's why I think it's alright to compare an EVE Online esports scene to Formula 1 racing, which I would expect to be the most expensive sport to play, the least accessible sport for the general public to actively participate in. So yeah, from that I've come to what I think are a few points that CCP should keep in mind, or is going to have to try and implement in their way of promoting esports, which I do think they want, considering by the second Alliance tournament that they had last year, and then now this new league popping up and being promoted, and probably somewhat helped and supported by CCP. So yeah, I do think that CCP does want a sort of an esports scene for EVE Online. So what do I think they should do in order to make that a success? First of all, I do think they'll need a strong focus on the teams, not so much on the individual pilots, which is easy to do for a StarCraft 2 player especially. That's usually one-on-one. You know, stars can easily rise and carry the brand by themselves, just on their personal name. In League of Legends, yeah, you need a team of 5 players, but there's usually many ways for individual players to show their skill and to basically also carry the brand that way. In EVE Online esports, I don't think that it's that possible, and I think the name of the alliance backing the teams is going to be much more important, and thus I think that should be brought to the forefront as much as possible, because people won't really be able, I think, to compare themselves to those players, to those individual pilots, but they can imagine, they can have an imagination about what this alliance represents, what it does for the team and things like that. So yeah, I think the focus on the teams and the alliances backing the teams is going to be very important. Second of all, improve the viewer experience. Most viewers will never actively participate in the experience, in the esports, in the tournament themselves. Most EVE Online players will never take part in the EVE Online Alliance tournament, for that matter. So I do think it's going to be very important for CCP to continue to improve the experience from the viewers. It should not be basically trying to convey the experience of piloting the individual ship or flying in that match, but more about the match and everything that's around it, the organization, the alliances around that, just like you would see in Formula 1. You know, you don't stay in a single car or follow everything like that. No, they show highlights. It's all about the teams, the cars, the stats of the cars, the stats of the pilots. There's a lot more technical information, basically that's a part of the viewer experience, to make them feel involved, not just as a potential player, but just as a part of that team. The entire infrastructure behind the tournament and the matches, I think, is much more important for an esports scene in EVE Online. Yeah, so that's the second thing. I'd already touched on that. Technical information is very important in a game like StarCraft 2. Sure, there are some tactics and some techniques, but yeah, the individual can easily explain tactics, game styles, counters and stuff like that. In EVE Online there's much more information to keep in mind, and that I do think should be made available for the viewers. Individual fits, min-maxing, the advantages and disadvantages of certain weapons, certain ECM, electronic warfare and all of that. It's just so extremely complex compared, I think, to the other esports games, that I do think it's going to have to be a part of the viewer experience to try and show how complex that is, how much thinking goes behind it. I wouldn't know myself how to incorporate that successfully, but I do think that yeah, showing that aspect of the tournaments, the matches, the esports is going to be very important for the viewers in order to be more attached and to feel like they have a better understanding. I'm pretty sure that Formula 1's fans know all the technical details of the individual cars and teams running on there. They know a lot more about times in the pits and stuff like that, which normal people would never even consider this sort of information for a football match or a basketball match. It's much more about the individual players there, whereas it's much more about the cars and about the teams in a Formula One sports scene. So I think it's the same for EVE Online compared to the big esports scenes at the moment. And then finally, I think connecting the viewers to the teams and their sponsors, to the alliances behind them, is also very important. Now for that, I can actually already see a few things that could be done with just a bit of implementation. I can imagine if you're rooting for, I'm just saying something, a Hydra team or a Goons team, that you would be able to buy the team colors for your ships, from the alliances, or buy some clothes for your character, a hat, goggles, t-shirt, whatever, you name it. That would then help the alliances and those teams to fund them. Basically, yeah, it would be with ISK, of course, but to show your support for the team you're rooting for in the EVE Online esports scene, and to create ways for the viewers to feel connected to the teams and to the alliances behind those teams. I do think that would be an awesome thing to try and implement for the EVE Online esports scene. Yeah, basically you could have find a lot of inspiration in real life sports on that. There's quite a lot of the asteroids are depleted. There are quite a lot of things that teams like McLaren and stuff sell to the public, and from that I do think you can draw a parallel to EVE Online. It would be pretty awesome if all those alliances that sponsor teams in the tournaments would be able to create their own colors, and that then fans of those teams and of those alliances could purchase those colors to fly them with pride, or that they could create a t-shirt or a cap or whatever for the next store, and thus that people would be able to support their team and show their support actively on their screen or in space in the game. In that same matter, I do think this sort of a promotion and connection, not so much with the individual player. You could always follow a stream of an individual player. That's not possible for an EVE Online esports scene. You do need that connection to the larger entity, to the team or to the alliance behind the team. In my opinion, of course, keep in mind these are all just my views. When I get I find something about a topic that interests me quite a lot, like this, esports and gaming. It does interest me a lot. My brain tends to sometimes try and ramble on, just try and think about stuff. So yeah, that's going to be it for my views on this video, my views on EVE Online and esports. I am curious though, what would you guys want CCP to implement that would convince you to watch EVE Online tournaments, or to watch this new Syndicate Competitive League on Twitch or on whatever other platform, if that's part of your suggestions. Please post those in the comments. I'm very curious to know what your views are on an esports scene in EVE Online, and I thank you beforehand, and I'll see you all next time.